This week we're going to start a new assignment, a retouching project using Photoshop. As you can see here, it says that you will repair and colorize a damaged photograph in Photoshop. I'm looking for you to repair the photograph to its seemingly original state, how it would have looked before it was ruined, in a very believable way. The photograph can be something that you find on the internet or a family photo that you found, but you absolutely need to get my approval before you start working. Please send me a message in Canvas in the inbox to get me to approve your picture. I want to make sure that it's a reasonable amount of work, not too easy, but certainly I want to make sure that it's not too hard. Many of you did not email me for the last project when I required approval first, so this is part of your grade, so please make sure to do that before you move forward, or you will lose points. Things that we don't want to see: artifact, clone stamp patterning, right? We're looking for believability, blending, lighting, correct color. Very similar to some of your other projects so far. We're looking for named and organized layers, a layered group with the original images. We're looking for you to use clone stamp, patch, and healing brush tools, which we will review today. Adjustment layers for coloring your pictures, and of course, as usual, all manipulation should be non-destructive. Please follow the formatting for how to name your file. I will be looking for a PSD file and a JPEG, please. Here are some student examples. You can see here where the repairs are made with the cracks as well as the addition of color. This one's really a fabulous example, a very hard one here, but the student was up for the challenge and really did a great job putting it together. So I'm going to use this picture to review the tools that we need. It's a pretty popular picture that you can find online to be able to practice restoration. Heavily cracked, right? Lots of restoration will be needed. And then we'll colorize it next week. So as I always start with any new file, I make a copy of my background first. You can do that by either right-clicking and do duplicate layer, or the hotkey for that is Command-J. And I always, you always want to make sure that you store your background in a safe place where it can't be modified. So we're just going to call this, I don't know, original JPEG. All right, and now we have our background copy. Okay. So the main tools we're going to be reviewing here are the spot healing brush tools, the healing brush tool, the patch tool, and of course the clone stamp tool. We're going to go in order of the easiest ones to use to the hardest ones to use. So let's start with spot healing brush. It looks like a band-aid with a circle around it. And you can see our brush size here. I want to just quickly go through the toolbar on the top here. In this drop-down menu, you can see that there are blending modes that you can apply to it. I want to use normal, but there might be a case where sometimes with skin or hair, some of these other options work really well. You can see here that content aware is selected. And the other one that works really well is proximity match. So what the brush does is it's looking around the edges of the brush, and for proximity match, it's looking at the areas directly around the brush. Content aware is a larger area where it reconstructs pixels by looking around it. So for every retouching tool, you'll want to make a new layer, except for the patch tool that needs an image layer, which we'll go over. So let's make a new blank layer, and we'll call this spot healing. Okay. So you'll want to label each layer for your tool. Okay, so I'm going to start here in the area with the least damage. Oops. And I'm just going to zoom in with Command+. You can also use Alt and your scroll key to zoom in and out. you know, you don't want to get too close in and be seeing these pixels. That doesn't really help you. And we'll start with this. So I'll be using the spot healing brush tool. You'll see when I use it and I drag that it shows a black area where the brush has been placed. And if I let go, let me make sure sample all layers is selected here. Let's try that again. And now when I drag, it will replace that spot there, a portion of the image. So I'm gonna just keep working here and try to get rid of some of these really small cracks. And this is non-destructive because it's on a separate layer. So as I toggle this on and off, you can see where I've already done my repairs here. Be aware that since this is an automatic feature, sometimes Photoshop may sample pixels from a place that is damaged, and you don't want that. That's called artifacting. We'll go over that a little more later. So I'm just going to try to fix this large size here. You can see that I am making very small repairs, clicking. I'm not doing, like, you know, a huge drag when I'm doing this. More often than not, it doesn't blend as well as it should. So you kind of just want to make a lot of. You're gonna have to click many times. It's a patience test here with reparation. So we've done pretty well here. Got a pretty big spot, looking all right. Okay. All right. So this is pretty good. So one of the things I want to review with you here is our history log. It's going to be in the right panel here. If you don't see it, you'll just go to Windows and make sure that your history checkbox is ticked here. I always have history open. It's actually a panel that I use pretty often. So in the case of this here, let me just make it bigger. You can see here that we've clicked the brush more times than the Photoshop log carries back for, right? So there's only so much undoing we can do here. I think most Photoshop, I think that the default is 50 or 80 steps. This looks more like 50 to me here. So it only goes so far. So you can use the history panel to kind of give you a snapshot of your document in the state that it's in. And that way, if you can't go back in time with all of the actions that you've performed, you can at least go back to your snapshot. I'll show you what that means. So it'll take a version of your document and create exactly as it is with all of your layers and save it as a section in your history. So you do that by clicking this little camera button here. It says here, create a new snapshot. And you can see up here now that you have your original file, right? Our original document, and then our first snapshot here. I'm going to label this spot healing 1. That way, if I make another snapshot after I continue to spot heal, I'll know where that is. Okay? So now we have our progress saved up to that point. We have a pretty big section here that is that's healed. So let's try the next tool here. The next tool is the spot healing brush. The healing brush tool, which is directly underneath the spot healing brush. And again, it has our blending modes here. I'm going to use it on normal still. There are times where I might be using, honestly, I use color. I use darken and I use lighten probably the most in my practice, particularly for restoring photographs. That's something I do for work. And sometimes that helps me with that. So it's always good to experiment with these and bear in mind how they can really help with working, period. So okay, we have our healing brush tool. We're going to use sampled, and I'll show you how to use the canvas to sample. And we're going to make sure that we have all layers selected here, right? Since we're going to be using a blank layer, which we'll make now. Healing brush. Okay. Okay, so the healing brush tool works. It's what you have to do is rather than Photoshop automatically selecting which pixels it will use to resample the pixels you are trying to repair, you select the pixels that you want to move in order to repair it. This is one of my favorite ways to work, to be honest. This is probably one of the ones I use the most. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's just zoom back in here and we'll work on our next crack there. So what you do is, in order to take a sample, you will use Alt, and you'll see my cursor turn into like a crosshairs or a target, and that's where you're going to be targeting those pixels that you want to sample. So I will select here. I'm going to make my brush a little smaller. You can do that, of course, by selecting the size up here. I also want my hardness to be a little lower, have a little more feathered edge. Try to blend this as well as I can. You can, of course, select this to make your brush larger, or you can use the brackets. Right bracket makes it larger, left bracket makes it smaller. All right, so let's take a sample here, and I'm just going to start moving those pixels over here. You can see that every time I click, it shows you where I'm targeting pixels from. That way you can kind of keep track of where it is spreading. And you might want to do that because, say, let's see, I'll go up here. So let's say that I'm repairing and I want to go over here, and all of a sudden I am, well, let's do something a little better here. I'll go down here, and maybe as I am repairing, you'll see there that it's moving this crack to here, right? So it is moving the damage. And it's kind of moving this, right? So it's moving this damage or cracked portion to the part you're trying to restore. This is called a cloning artifact or a retouching artifact. This is bad. I'm specifically going to be looking for artifacts in your work. These repetition, this kind of repetition of images here, right? These portions make it really clear that you tried to restore it. It's one of the signs when people are like, oh yeah, this person tried to fix this picture and didn't do a good job. So please try to avoid that. An easy way to do that is, of course, zooming in and to be able to see what you're doing, which will take time and patience. All right. So I'm just continuing to clear out this area here. I'll move up a little bit more. Let's just try to get this mark out. All right. And that looks pretty good. So as you can see, this is really taking time and patience here. I'm doing a lot of clicking. I'm not doing large portions at a time. It's really how you can make a restoration look really poor is by trying to do large portions at a time. Now with these two tools, we have a pretty large portion of our image cleared up. Again, make sure that your brush tool isn't too large, otherwise you can create artifacting as well. We can briefly go over his face as well. I'll take a sample here by holding Alt, and I'll start repairing the face. Okay. And then I'll really zoom in to get, these kinds of parts here. All right, so you're getting the picture here. Now we have I would do a little more work here, try to blend that out. But for sake of time, I'm going to keep going. So again, non-destructive here. We have all our edits still totally able to be toggled back and forth. I just want to move this part. Okay. All right, I can keep doing this forever. I actually really enjoy restoring pictures. So I don't mind the tedious aspect of this work. Okay, so now we have a really large portion here of our background available to us to continue to use. I'll use this moment to show you the patch tool, which is the next tool down here, right? And the patch tool, again, on the top here, we have, our normal and content aware. Experiment with both. I'm going to keep it on normal for now. And you can see here that you have two options here, either source or destination. So if it's set to destination, then if I move it, I'll make a portion here. I'll make a sample here with the lasso. And if I move it, that's right. So before we use the patch tool, we have to work on an image layer, not these blank layers here. We need all of the information here in order to patch. So you can either control and select all of these, right? Shift select all. You can do duplicate layers, and you can merge them. This is one way to get a merged layer here. Okay. You can also select these again and look for merge visible. And if you do that while holding Alt, again, you will get a merged layer. Or you can merge all and make a copy. Let me just delete these. And you can do that by the shortcut Alt, Control, Shift. Wait, now I'm forgetting what I do. Let me do this automatically. Okay, my mistake, guys. It took me a second to do this because I don't usually explain the hotkeys as I'm pushing them. I just automatically go for it. Okay, so this is Alt, Control, Shift, and E will make a copy of every layer here. Okay, so again, that's Alt, Command, or Control, depending on if you're Mac or PC, Shift, and E. Okay, and now we have this merged layer here. I'm going to use this layer actually for the patch tool. Let's rename that. Okay. So now we have this layer that's a stack of all the layers into one. And we are going to be literally deleting pixels here, but this is considered non-destructive because we've created a redundant layer. This is a copy of everything below it. So I'm going to delete the pixels in the area that I'm not going to be working in here, right? Really went this far. All right. Okay, so I only want to keep the part that I want to use to patch, the part I want to fix to move it. Okay, so let's try again. We'll have our patch tool. I'll make a selection here under with destination selected, and if you move it, you can see here that it actually did a really good job. You can kind of see a line here that I'd probably fix up a little bit, but it did a really good job. It took the selected portion and then moved that to the destination. Maybe I'll try it one more time and try to keep this just a little straighter. I have a little bit of a lightness going on here, but that's not bad. If you use source, you would then circle around the damaged portion and then drag it to the destination area. And now you can see we're doing some really nice, it's blending really well here. All right, and you can just keep working that way. I honestly would probably put patch tool, and then I usually want to label where it is, up, right, quad, so that I know that I'm working on this upper right quadrant here. All right, so really stepping it up here with this. It's looking great so far. Okay, so let's review our last tool here, which is the clone stamp tool. This is really one of the, the most powerful tools in Photoshop, really the bread and butter. So we'll take another blank layer here and we'll call it clone stamp. Okay, so most people have a tendency to use the clone stamp tool at 100% opacity and it just literally moves pixels from one spot to another. I'll show you, like if I just sample from his eye here. Again, I'm using Alt. You can sample all layers. Make sure that this is always selected. Current layer is usually defaulted, but all layers is what you want, right? We can't sample from a current layer, it's blank. So we need to sample from everything that's there. So now I'll try again, I'll sample his eyeball. And you can see here how it literally moves those pixels over here. I do have my blending mode, excuse me, I do have my brush pretty feathered. So it's blending a little bit on the edges here, but it's still kind of directly moving those pixels over. And it's just, it looks too fake, too forced. So what you can do is, so this isn't the best practice, there's no real blending, right? We'll use a soft edge brush, and we'll bring the opacity down to like 20%. You can start working higher if you become, better at this, more rehearsed. But for now, I would say you can start with start about 20 until you're more familiar. Again, make sure that sample all layers is selected. We'll keep our blending mode to normal. Let me make sure my hardness at 0. Great. And I will do a spot here. Let's do this portion of her nose here where there's some changes, in value and stuff. So I'm going to take a sample of this here and just start trying to get this to blend out just a little bit. And I'm going to continue to take samples and try to move some of these pixels out and try to blend out these cracks in her nose. Sometimes you can see that light moves up, so I'm trying to push that back down and vice versa, and just trying to blend this as well as I can. And I'll even do a little bit of this portion here. No, more darkness, right. Okay, so as you can see here, I've really blended out that crack on her nose. If I toggle back and forth, you can see that difference there. I brightened her eye a little bit there, but I actually really don't mind that. So you can see here how working with a low blending mode is really getting this to blend together in a really nice way. Excuse me, a low opacity. It's getting this to blend really well, right? And you can just continue to work that way. As you continue to work on the face here. One of the things I meant to do before that I did not do was take a snapshot after my healing brush layer or my patch layer. You really want to make sure that you're trying to do that just in case you make some catastrophic mistake, that you can go back to one of your snapshots to try to fix that. So that's how I'm using the clone stamp tool here, right? That's pretty much it with these tools. Again, you can kind of see how that made the difference there with her nose. I would continue blending it out a little bit, but that's what I would use here. Let's say here that we have, this corner here. How would you fix that? I would, of course, make sure that there are more repairs done on this side, but for the sake of example, I will show you. I'll just select this corner here where there is no image, and we can do edit content aware fill. Oh, I need to make sure I'm on a layer. And it will use, it will look around it, right? You can see here what it's sampling. Obviously, we don't want to be sampling from the face or the hair. Right, and then you can use that to resample what's going on over here. Again, like I said, if you had more repaired over here, this wouldn't look like it's continuing damage, but for the sake of example here, this is an auto sampling option. You can customize what you want it to use to resample as well, and just select the part that you would want. And I'll push OK, and you can see here now that we have a layer here. Let's just put fill, left, upper corner. And now we have that filled portion there, and you could, blend that out to work it in a little more. Of course, there are more modern ways that we use the retouching tools, to retouch pictures and portraits, right? That's often how people are, fixing up models' faces and stuff. So, like I said, I always want to start by copying stuff here, making sure that I have all my stuffs here saved. And we can, of course, apply uh, the same techniques to everything else, right? So I can, of course, use the spot healing brush tool and start, removing maybe blemishes from the model's face, if that's something that your models may want. Maybe these wrinkles here, that was too much. You can see how much that softened the skin. It doesn't really look that good. All right. And of course, the same can be for, the healing brush tool. We have sample all layers, and, I can maybe select the sample here and remove some of the blemishes. You might even want to, get that hair to kind of keep coming down. Cool. So, that's how you would be using these tools, for something else besides restoring a picture, is just simple retouching. These are, essentially the same parts here. And depending on what your style is, for how much you want it, you can totally, make a face look smooth and, porcelain-like if you're into, super retouched pictures. Some people like super raw pictures. They try to do as minimal retouching as possible. So that's something that, of course, is up to your style and the style of, the sitter, the person you're taking a portrait of. Covers pretty much everything I want to do today. Be sure to email me a photo to approve before you start restoring it so that I can give you an okay. And of course, if you have any questions, email me anytime. Next week, we'll review how to colorize our photo and have an introduction to InDesign.